My name is Clarissa. I am 29 years old and I am an architect. I designed a house with every ounce of my heart and soul. But my husband turned it into a stage for his arrogance. At our housewarming party, he looked me in the eyes and said, "My ex is coming. If you don't like it, go to hell." I did not cry. I did not beg. I laughed, because he had no idea what was coming. Before I share what happened next, let me know where you are watching from today. Hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Because my husband forgot one crucial detail, he was standing in a house that I built, claiming credit that was never his to take. I grew up in Charleston, South Carolina, in a small yellow house with a wraparound porch that my father built with his own hands. My daddy passed away when I was 12 years old, a heart attack that took him from us on a Tuesday morning while he was at work. One moment he was there, and the next he was gone. My mother, Gloria, became everything after that. She was a third-grade teacher at the local elementary school, and she raised me and my brother Marcus on her salary alone. Marcus is 4 years older than me. He always looked out for me, especially after we lost our father. He would walk me to school, help me with homework, and tell me that everything would be okay, even when it felt like our world was falling apart. Today, Marcus owns a successful contracting business in Atlanta. He built his company from nothing, and I have always admired his determination. From the time I was a little girl, I was fascinated by buildings. I would sit on our front porch and sketch the houses on our street, imagining different windows, different doors, different rooftops. My mother kept every single drawing I ever made. She said I had a gift, and she encouraged me to follow it wherever it led. I earned a full scholarship to Clemson University where I studied architecture. Those 4 years were some of the happiest of my life. I graduated with honors, and I still remember the way my mother cried when I walked across that stage. She said my father would have been so proud. After graduation, I was hired by Sterling Design Group in Charlotte, North Carolina. It was a dream come true. I started as a junior architect, learning everything I could from the senior designers. After 5 years of hard work, I was promoted to senior architect, specializing in residential design. I loved creating homes for families, designing spaces where people would build their lives and make their memories. But if I am being honest, I have always struggled with one thing. I am not good at promoting myself. I do the work, I pour my heart into every project, but I never learned how to stand up and say, "This is mine. I did this." That tendency to stay quiet to let others take the spotlight would eventually cost me more than I ever imagined. I met Garrett 4 years ago at an industry networking event in Charlotte. He was a sales director for a company that supplied high-end building materials, the kind of luxury finishes that architects like me specified for upscale projects. He was tall with broad shoulders and a confident smile that seemed to fill the room. He approached me first. I was standing by myself near the bar, feeling awkward the way I always did at these events. He walked over with 2 glasses of wine and said, "You look like someone who appreciates good design." I laughed, surprised by his boldness. We started talking, and he seemed genuinely interested in architecture. He asked about my work, about the projects I was designing, about the challenges of creating beautiful homes. He told me about the materials he sold, the Italian marble, and the reclaimed wood, and the custom metalwork. He knew all the right words. Looking back now, I realize he only knew the surface. He knew enough to sell products to architects, but he did not truly understand design. He did not understand the thousands of decisions that go into creating a space, the way light and proportion and flow all work together. But at the time, I was charmed. He was attentive. He listened. And I was lonely. We exchanged phone numbers that night, and he called me the very next day. Our first date was dinner at a restaurant overlooking the Charlotte skyline. He told me about his ambitions, his plans to climb the corporate ladder, his dream of owning a beautiful home someday. I told him about my passion for architecture, about the houses I designed in my imagination, about my hope of creating something truly special one day. The first 6 months were wonderful. Garrett sent me flowers every week. He texted me sweet messages in the morning and called me every night before bed. He took me to see beautiful buildings around the city, historic homes and modern masterpieces alike. He bought me books about famous architects. He made me feel seen. When it was time to meet families, I introduced him to my mother and Marcus. We drove down to Charleston for a weekend, and Garrett was on his best behavior. He complimented my mother's cooking. He asked Marcus about his contracting business. He admired the yellow house where I grew up. My mother liked him. She said he was polite and charming, but Marcus was quieter. On our last night in Charleston, as Garrett was packing the car, Marcus pulled me aside. "He talks a lot about himself," Marcus said. "Have you noticed that?" I brushed it off. "He is just confident," I told my brother. "That is a good thing." Marcus nodded, but I could see the doubt in his eyes. I chose to ignore it. When I met Garrett's family, the picture was different. His parents had divorced when he was young, and he was not close with either of them. His father lived in Florida and rarely called. His mother had remarried twice and was busy with her own life. Garrett seemed unbothered by this distance, but I sometimes wondered if it had shaped him in ways he did not recognize. Over time, small things started to bother me. Garrett loved to talk about his accomplishments, his big sales, his important clients, his rising status at the company. When I shared something about my own work, a design I was proud of, or a challenge I had overcome, his response was always the same. "That is great, babe," and then he would change the subject back to himself. I told myself it did not matter. I told myself that couples did not have to share every interest. I told myself I was lucky to have someone so driven and ambitious. After 18 months of dating, Garrett proposed. He took me to a rooftop restaurant with a view of the Charlotte skyline, the same view from our first date. He got down on one knee and presented me with a diamond ring. I said yes without hesitation. Our wedding was 6 months later, held in Charleston, so my mother could be surrounded by her friends and her community. Marcus served as one of the groomsmen, though he still seemed reserved around Garrett. My mother cried happy tears throughout the ceremony. She squeezed my hand and whispered, "Your father would be so proud." Garrett made promises that day. He said he would give me the life I deserved. He said we would build something beautiful together. I believed every word. We moved into an apartment in Charlotte, and I thought our life together was just beginning. I had no idea what was really starting. After about a year of marriage, Garrett came home one evening with an announcement that made my heart race with excitement. "We should build a house," he said. "Not buy some cookie-cutter place, something custom, something that shows who we are." I could barely contain my joy. This was the opportunity I had been dreaming of my entire career. I was an architect who designed homes for other people, and now I would finally get to design one for myself. Garrett had a piece of land at Lake Norman about 30 minutes outside of Charlotte. The property had belonged to his family for years, inherited from a grandfather he barely knew. It sat empty, covered in trees overlooking the water. It was beautiful. I started sketching that very night. Ideas poured out of me faster than I could capture them. I envisioned a modern home with clean lines but warm materials. 3 stories with the main living space on the second floor to maximize the lake views. Floor-to-ceiling windows that would flood every room with natural light. A wraparound deck extending over the hillside. A blend of stone and wood and glass that would feel both contemporary and timeless. For months I worked on the design. I stayed up late refining every detail. I calculated angles to catch the morning sun. I selected materials that would age gracefully. I designed built-in furniture and custom millwork. Every corner of that house reflected my vision, my training, my heart. When I showed the finished plans to Garrett, he glanced through them quickly. "Looks good," he said. "Make sure the master bedroom has a balcony facing the lake." That was his only comment. No questions about my design choices. No curiosity about the thousands of hours I had invested. Just a single request that took me 2 minutes to incorporate. I sent the plans to a contractor that Garrett had recommended, a company he had done business with through his work. I assumed he would introduce me as the architect. I assumed my name would be attached to my own design. A few days later, the contractor called me. "This is impressive work," he said. "Your husband said he designed it himself." I felt like the ground had shifted beneath my feet. "Excuse me?" I managed to say. The contractor explained that Garrett had emailed him the plans with a note claiming that he had spent months creating the design. Garrett had presented my work as his own. I confronted Garrett that evening. I tried to stay calm, but my voice was shaking. "Did you tell the contractor that you designed the house?" Garrett barely looked up from his phone. "I just simplified things," he said. "They do not need to know all the details. Besides, it is easier for the business relationship if they think the homeowner designed it. It gives them confidence." "But I designed it," I said. "It is my work." He finally looked at me, and his expression was dismissive. "Do not be so sensitive, Clarissa. What matters is that the house gets built right. Who cares whose name is on some paperwork? I should have fought harder. I should have insisted that my name appear on every document. But I did not want conflict. I did not want to create tension in our marriage over what I told myself was a small misunderstanding. So I let it go. The construction took 18 months. I was at the job site every single week, sometimes more often. I met with the builders, answered their questions, solved problems as they arose. When there was an issue with the foundation, I redesigned the support structure. When the window manufacturer sent the wrong specifications, I coordinated the correction. When the interior layout needed adjustments, I made them on site. Garrett rarely appeared at the construction site. He said he was busy with work, busy closing deals, busy climbing the ladder at his company. But whenever an important visitor came by, someone he wanted to impress, suddenly Garrett was there giving tours like he was the mastermind behind every decision. "This window placement was my idea," I heard him tell his colleague once. "I wanted to maximize the lake view from the living room. I was standing right there." He did not introduce me. He did not acknowledge that I had spent 3 weeks calculating the exact angle for those windows. I was invisible. One of the contractors, a man named Doug, who had been in the business for 30 years, pulled me aside one afternoon. "Your wife designed this right?" he asked Garrett, though he was looking at me. "This is professional level work. Better than most architects I've worked with." I nodded but said nothing. Garrett laughed and put his arm around me. "She helped with some of the details," he said, "but the vision was mine." Doug looked at me with something like pity in his eyes. I looked away. When the house was finally complete, I stood in the entryway and cried. Not from happiness, though the house was more beautiful than I had ever imagined. I cried because I knew that this masterpiece, this culmination of everything I had learned and dreamed, would never carry my name. The house was valued at approximately $1.2 million. It was featured in a local architecture blog as an example of modern lakefront design. And when Garrett posted photos on social media, his caption made my stomach turn. "Dreams do come true. Built this beauty from scratch." Hundreds of likes poured in. Dozens of comments praised Garrett's talent. "I had no idea you were so creative." "Garrett, this is incredible. You should have been an architect." "Hidden talents, man. This house is amazing." Garrett responded to every comment with false modesty. "I have always had an eye for design," he wrote. "Just never had the chance to show it before." Not a single person knew that his wife had designed every square inch of that house. Not a single person knew that he had taken credit for work that was never his. I read those comments late at night while Garrett slept beside me. I told myself it did not matter. I told myself that the house belonged to both of us, that marriage meant sharing everything, including credit and recognition. But deep inside, something was breaking. I just did not want to admit it yet. We had been living in the lake house for about a month when I first heard the name that would haunt me. Garrett was in the living room when his phone rang. He glanced at the screen and something flickered across his face, something I could not quite identify. He stood up quickly and walked outside to take the call. I was in the kitchen, but through the windows I could see him pacing on the deck. I could not hear his words, but I could see his body language. He was animated, almost excited. He laughed several times. When he finally came back inside, he looked lighter than he had in weeks. "Who was that?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "Oh, just Priscilla," he said. "An old friend." The name landed in my chest like a stone. "Your ex-girlfriend, Priscilla." He nodded, not meeting my eyes. "We reconnected recently. She is in real estate now down in Raleigh. Could be useful for business." I tried to keep my voice steady. "You are talking to your ex-girlfriend about our house." Garrett sighed the way he always did when he thought I was being unreasonable. "Do not be jealous, Clarissa. It is purely professional. She is interested in the luxury property market around here. That is all." I wanted to believe him. I tried to believe him, but the name Priscilla began appearing more and more often in our lives. That evening after Garrett had fallen asleep, I could not stop thinking about it. I lay awake staring at the ceiling I had designed in the house I had created, wondering who Priscilla was and why my husband seemed so eager to talk to her. The next day, I did something I had never done before. I searched for her on social media. Priscilla Hayes. The photos showed a beautiful woman with long, wavy brown hair and striking green eyes. She dressed impeccably, always photographed in front of expensive cars or luxurious homes. Her profile said she was a real estate agent in Raleigh, specializing in high-end properties. Her feed was full of images from her glamorous life travel photos from Europe dinner parties at upscale restaurants, professional headshots that belonged in a magazine. I scrolled back through her timeline and found pictures from years ago. And there was Garrett, his arm around her, both of them smiling at the camera. They had dated for about 2 years before Garrett met me. According to what I could piece together, they had broken up because Priscilla moved to Raleigh for a job opportunity. But looking at their old photos, they had seemed happy together. Very happy. I noticed something else. They were still friends on social media. Garrett frequently liked her posts, and she liked his. In fact, she had liked and commented on the post about our house. "Impressive, you always had good taste." My stomach churned. When Garrett came home that evening, I asked him directly about his history with Priscilla. I tried to frame it as innocent curiosity, just wanting to know more about his past. His reaction surprised me. He became defensive, almost angry. "Why are you digging into my past?" he demanded. "That relationship is over. It has been over for years. Focus on us, Clarissa. Focus on the present." His intensity startled me into silence. I did not ask about Priscilla again, but I started paying closer attention. Over the following weeks, I noticed patterns. Garrett would receive calls at odd hours and step outside to answer them. His phone was always face down on tables, never in my line of sight. He had changed his password recently, claiming it was for security reasons. One night I woke up around 2 a.m. to find Garrett's side of the bed empty. I walked quietly through the house and found him on the back deck, phone pressed to his ear, speaking in a low voice. "Miss you too. Yeah, we should definitely meet up. The house is amazing, you should see it." I retreated before he noticed me. I stood in our bedroom, the bedroom I had designed with so much care, and felt something cold settle into my bones. A few nights later, Garrett fell asleep on the couch watching television. His phone was beside him on the cushion. It lit up with a notification, and my eyes automatically went to the screen. The message was from P. "Can't stop thinking about your house, or you." 5 words. 5 words that confirmed what I had been dreading. I did not wake him. I did not confront him. Instead, I walked to the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water, and stared out at the lake in the darkness. A part of me wanted to scream. A part of me wanted to pack my bags that very night. But another part of me, a calculating part I did not know I possessed, told me to wait. I returned to the bedroom and quietly picked up my own phone. I took a screenshot of the message on Garrett's screen. I saved it in a folder I created called Evidence. I did not know exactly what I was planning, but some instinct told me I would need proof someday. The next morning, I asked Garrett casually if he and Priscilla still talked. He looked at me with irritation. "I already told you it is just business. Why do you keep bringing this up?" I let it drop. But I was watching now, watching everything. Our marriage had always had cracks, but I had filled them in with excuses and hope. Now those cracks were widening into canyons. Garrett made me feel like an afterthought in my own home. He took credit for my work. He dismissed my concerns. And now he was communicating with his ex-girlfriend in ways that were clearly inappropriate. I did not confront him because I did not want his explanations. I did not want his lies. I wanted something else, though I was not sure what it was yet. All I knew was that I was done being invisible, done being overlooked, done being the silent architect of a life that someone else was claiming as his own. 2 months after we moved into the lake house, Garrett made an announcement that set everything in motion. "We should throw a housewarming party," he declared one Saturday morning over breakfast. "A big one. 50 guests, maybe more. Catering, decorations, the whole thing. This house deserves to be shown off." I agreed to handle the planning. For weeks I organized everything: the guest list, the catering menu, the decorations, the music. I coordinated with vendors and arranged rentals. I transformed our beautiful home into the perfect setting for a celebration. When I presented the guest list to Garrett, I asked a question that had been on my mind. Should I invite my family? My mother and Marcus would love to see the finished house. Garrett shook his head without hesitation. "Your brother does not really fit in with my colleagues. He is a contractor, and these are corporate people. It might be awkward. Maybe we can have them visit another time." His words stung, but I swallowed the hurt. I was used to swallowing by then. 1 week before the party, I was reviewing the RSVP list when a name stopped me cold. Priscilla Hayes. My heart pounded as I stared at the screen. I walked through the house until I found Garrett in his home office, the office I had designed with built-in shelves and perfect natural light. "You invited Priscilla?" I asked, struggling to keep my voice level. "To our housewarming party." He did not even look up from his laptop. "Yeah. She is interested in the property market around Lake Norman. Good connection to have. She is your ex-girlfriend. You cannot invite her to our home." Now he looked at me and his eyes were cold. He stood up slowly and walked toward me, using his height to tower over me. "Listen carefully," he said, his voice low and threatening. "This is my house. I built it. I decide who comes and who does not. Your house, I could barely breathe. I designed every inch of this place, every room, every window, every detail." He laughed, a cruel sound that echoed off the walls I had so carefully planned. "You drew some lines on paper, Clarissa. I paid for this house. I managed the construction. I made it real. Without me, your little sketches would still be sitting in a folder somewhere." "That is not true, and you know it." He stepped even closer, and I instinctively stepped back. "Priscilla is coming," he said, enunciating every word. "If you do not like it, you can go to hell. Or better yet, do not show up at the party. I do not care either way." He turned and walked back to his desk, dismissing me completely. I stood in the hallway of my own creation, trembling with a mixture of hurt and rage. For a moment, I considered doing exactly what he suggested. I could skip the party, could hide away and pretend none of this was happening. But then something shifted inside me. No. I was done hiding, done pretending, done letting him erase me. That night I lay in bed beside a man who felt like a stranger. He fell asleep quickly, as he always did, unbothered by the pain he had caused. I stared at the ceiling in the darkness, and for the first time in years, my mind was perfectly clear. This party would not go the way Garrett expected. He wanted to show off. He wanted to play the successful man in his beautiful house with his beautiful ex-girlfriend by his side. He wanted to humiliate me. But I had built this house. Every wall, every window, every room was mine. And I was going to remind everyone of that truth. The next morning I started making phone calls. First I called Marcus. "I need you at the party," I said. "And I need you to bring Franklin." Franklin Webb was Marcus's business partner and close friend. He was also the founder and CEO of Webb Construction, one of the largest construction companies in the Southeast. Franklin had seen my work over the years. He had tried to recruit me several times for design partnerships. He knew exactly what I was capable of. Marcus did not hesitate. "What is going on, sis?" I told him everything. The stolen credit, the lies, Priscilla, the way Garrett had told me to go to hell in my own home. When I finished, Marcus was silent for a long moment. "I knew something was wrong with that guy," he finally said. "I never trusted him. We will be there, both of us." Next, I called my mother. "Mom, I need you to come to Charlotte." She heard something in my voice that made her say yes immediately, no questions asked. She would drive up the day of the party. Finally, I went to my laptop and opened the folder where I kept all my design files. Every blueprint, every sketch, every version of every plan. All of them had timestamps created months before construction even began. All of them had my name in the metadata. I printed a complete set and organized them into a leather portfolio. This was my proof, my evidence, my weapon. Garrett wanted to show off his house at the party. Fine. I would show everyone whose house it really was. The morning of the party arrived with clear blue skies and warm sunshine reflecting off the lake. It was a perfect day for a celebration which made everything that was about to happen feel even more surreal. I woke before dawn and began preparing. The catering company arrived at 9 to set up. I directed them through the house, making sure every detail was perfect. The bar would go by the pool. The appetizers would be stationed throughout the main living area. The deck would be set up for mingling with the lake view as backdrop. Garrett slept until almost noon. When he finally emerged, he wandered through the house criticizing my arrangements. "The flowers should be taller," he said. "And why is the bar inside? I specifically said I wanted it by the pool." I moved everything without argument. I was saving my energy for later. By 3 in the afternoon, I was dressed and ready. I had chosen an emerald green dress that I had been saving for a special occasion. It was elegant and bold, a color that demanded attention. Garrett looked me over when I came downstairs. "That color is too bold," he said, frowning. "People will stare." I smiled at him. "I think it is perfect." The first guests arrived at 4 o'clock. Bradley Garrett's regional manager came with his wife, a quiet woman who seemed to disappear beside her loud husband. Kevin and Sandra, colleagues from Garrett's sales team, followed shortly after. Then came the new neighbors, the Hendersons, a young couple who had just moved to the lake community. A few of my colleagues from Sterling Design Group arrived as well. They were the only people at the party who knew what I actually did for a living. Garrett transformed into the perfect host. He greeted everyone at the door, offered drinks, and guided small groups on tours of the house. I followed along for one of these tours, listening as he claimed credit for every decision I had made. "I spent months planning this layout," he told Bradley. "The open concept was my vision. I wanted the living space to feel connected to the outdoors." Bradley nodded, impressed. "I had no idea you had such an eye for design, Garrett." "Hidden talent," Garrett replied with false modesty. "I have always been creative, but this was my first chance to really express it. I bit my tongue so hard, I thought I might draw blood." At 5:30, the doorbell rang. I was closer to the door, so I answered it. My heart leaped when I saw who was standing on the porch. Marcus, dressed in a sharp gray suit, stood beside Franklin Webb, a distinguished man in his 60s with silver hair and kind eyes. Behind them was my mother, Gloria, wearing her best church dress and clutching her purse nervously. I hugged each of them in turn, holding my mother a little longer than the others. "I am so glad you are here," I whispered to her. "I am here for you, baby," she whispered back. "Whatever you need." Garrett appeared behind me, and I watched his face transform from confusion to anger to forced politeness in the span of 2 seconds. Gloria," he stammered, not even getting my mother's name right at first. "And Marcus? I did not realize you were coming." Marcus shook Garrett's hand with a grip that looked just a little too firm. "Clarissa invited us," Marcus said. "Hope that is okay." Garrett glanced at me, his eyes filled with silent fury, but there were guests watching. He could not make a scene. "Of course," he managed through clenched teeth. Welcome. Come in. I guided my family into the house, introducing Franklin Webb to the other guests. This is Marcus's business partner, I explained. Franklin Webb, CEO of Webb Construction. I watched Garrett register the name. Webb Construction was well known throughout the region. Franklin's presence added a level of legitimacy that Garrett had not anticipated. At 6:15, the doorbell rang again. Garrett practically ran to answer it, and I knew who it would be. Priscilla Hayes stood in the doorway looking like she had stepped out of a fashion magazine. Her long brown hair cascaded over her shoulders. Her black dress was cut low in the back, revealing smooth tanned skin. She was beautiful in a way that made me feel small, at least for a moment. "Garrett," she exclaimed, throwing her arms around him. "This place is even more stunning than the photos." They embraced for longer than was appropriate for old friends. Garrett kept his hand on her lower back as he guided her inside. I watched from across the room. My colleagues from Sterling exchanged uncomfortable glances. The Hendersons whispered to each other. My mother stood beside me, radiating quiet disapproval. Garrett did not introduce Priscilla to me. He did not even acknowledge that I existed. Instead, he led her on a private tour of the house, pointing out features and accepting her compliments like they were his due. Marcus appeared at my side. "Who is that woman?" he asked, though I could tell from his tone that he already suspected. "His ex-girlfriend. He invited her to our housewarming." Marcus's jaw tightened. "You ready?" I looked at the clock. 6:30. Franklin Webb caught my eye from across the room and gave me a subtle nod. I took a deep breath. Almost. I retrieved the leather portfolio from where I had hidden it in the study. My hands were steady as I walked out to the back patio where most of the guests had gathered. The lake sparkled in the evening light behind us. The house rose up like a monument, every line and angle a testament to my vision. Garrett and Priscilla stood near the pool, laughing together, their shoulders almost touching. He was pointing at architectural features, explaining them as if he had invented architecture itself. I picked up a champagne glass from a nearby table and tapped it gently with a fork. The sound cut through the chatter, and one by one people turned to look at me. "Everyone, may I have your attention, please?" The crowd quieted. Garrett looked up, surprised, then walked toward me with Priscilla trailing behind. "What are you doing?" he asked under his breath. I ignored him and spoke to the gathered guests. "I just want to say a few words about this beautiful home we are celebrating tonight." Garrett visibly relaxed, assuming this was a toast in his honor. He nodded graciously, preparing to accept the praise. "My husband has been giving wonderful tours all evening," I continued. "He has told you about his vision, his planning, his design choices." Garrett smiled and put his arm around me, playing the role of loving husband. "But I think it is time everyone knew the real story." His arm tensed. I stepped away from him. "What are you talking about?" he asked, his voice low and warning. I opened the portfolio. "I am a senior architect at Sterling Design Group, and I designed this entire house." The silence that followed was absolute. 50 pairs of eyes stared at me. I held up the first blueprint. "These are the original architectural drawings for this home, created by me 18 months ago before a single foundation was poured. Every detail that Garrett has claimed credit for tonight, the open concept, the window placement, the room layouts, all of it came from these plans, my plans." Bradley, Garrett's boss, stepped forward to look at the drawings. "These are professional architectural renderings," he said slowly. "Full specifications, construction details." "Yes," I said, "because I am a professional architect. This is what I do for a living." Garrett tried to recover. "She is exaggerating. We collaborated on the design. It was a team effort." Franklin Webb's voice cut through the murmuring crowd. "Actually, I have seen Clarissa's work before. I have tried to partner with her on several projects over the years. This design is consistent with her distinctive style. The angles, the proportions, the way she integrates indoor and outdoor spaces. This is not a collaboration. This is pure Clarissa." Garrett looked at Franklin with confusion. "Who are you?" Marcus stepped forward. This is Franklin Webb, CEO of Webb Construction, one of the largest construction companies in the Southeast. He has worked with the best architects in the region. He knows exactly what he's looking at. Franklin nodded. I would recognize Clarissa's work anywhere. She is one of the most talented residential designers I have ever encountered, and I can tell you with certainty that this house was designed by a professional, not by a sales manager with no architectural training. Garrett's face had gone pale. I was not finished. But that is not all, I said, turning to look directly at Priscilla. You must be Priscilla. Garrett has told me so much about you. Priscilla looked uncomfortable. Nice to meet you. I am curious, I continued. What exactly did Garrett tell you about this house? She glanced at Garrett, then back at me. He said he designed and built it himself. That is what I thought. I took out my phone and opened the screenshots I had saved over the past weeks. I also have some interesting messages here. Between my husband and his ex-girlfriend. Garrett lunged toward me. Give me that phone. Marcus stepped between us, his contractor's build blocking Garrett completely. I would think twice about that if I were you, Marcus said quietly. I read from the screen. This is from 2 weeks ago. Priscilla wrote, "Can't stop thinking about your house. Or you." And Garrett replied, "I built it hoping you would see it someday. We should have been living here together." Gasps rippled through the crowd. My mother moved to stand beside me, her presence a silent wall of support. Priscilla's face had gone red. I did not know. He told me they were basically separated. He said the marriage was essentially over. I looked at her with something almost like pity. We have been sleeping in the same bed. Until tonight. Priscilla turned to Garrett, her expression shifting from embarrassment to anger. You lied to me. Again. Just like you did back then. You have not changed at all. Garrett was spiraling. Priscilla, wait. I can explain. But Priscilla was already picking up her purse. No, she said firmly. I am done being your backup option. I am done believing your stories. She walked through the crowd, her heels clicking on the stone patio, and disappeared around the side of the house. A moment later, I heard a car engine start and tires on gravel. Garrett stood alone now, exposed in front of everyone he had tried to impress. This is ridiculous, he said, his voice cracking. You are all overreacting. Franklin Webb spoke again, his tone calm but devastating. Young man, based on what I have seen and heard tonight, this house was designed by your wife, using her professional skills. Every drawing, every plan bears her name. If she contributed financially to the mortgage or down payment, which I assume she did given her career, she has significant legal and ethical claim to this property. More importantly, she has claim to the credit you have been stealing. Marcus added, and as a contractor, I can tell you that the design is the soul of a house. Without the architect's vision, you would have nothing but an empty lot and some building materials. Garrett looked around desperately, seeking support from his colleagues, his friends, anyone. Bradley shook his head slowly. This is really disappointing, Garrett. You told everyone at the office that you built this yourself. You made it part of your whole success story. Kevin and Sandra were already collecting their things, clearly eager to leave. The Hendersons had retreated to the edge of the patio, watching with wide eyes. Garrett was alone in the middle of his own party, surrounded by the ruins of every lie he had told. I closed the portfolio and looked at my husband one last time. I am moving out tonight, I said. My attorney will be in touch about the divorce. Divorce. His voice was small now, all the arrogance drained away. You cannot do this. We are married. This is our house. Married couples support each other, I said. They do not steal each other's work and parade their ex-girlfriends through their home. You wanted everyone to see this house tonight. Well, now they have seen the truth about who built it, and about who you really are. My mother hugged me tightly. I am so proud of you, sweetheart. Marcus put his hand on my shoulder. Let's get your things. I walked into the house one last time past the stunned guests, past the beautiful rooms I had designed with such hope, past the man who had tried to erase me. I packed a single suitcase with clothes and essentials. I collected my laptop and my portfolio of designs. I left behind almost everything else. When I walked out the front door, my mother and Marcus were waiting by the car. Franklin Webb stood nearby. "When you are ready," Franklin said, "call me. I still want that partnership." I nodded, unable to speak. We drove away from the lake house as the sun set over the water. In the rearview mirror, I could see the house growing smaller, its windows glowing warm in the fading light. I did not look back. The first week after the party was the hardest. I stayed with my mother in Charleston, sleeping in my childhood bedroom surrounded by the drawings I had made as a little girl. Those early sketches of houses done in crayon and colored pencil reminded me why I had become an architect in the first place. I had wanted to create spaces where people could be happy. I had wanted to build homes filled with love. I cried sometimes late at night when the house was quiet. Not for Garrett, not for the marriage that had been a lie, but for myself. For the years I had spent letting someone diminish me. For all the times I had stayed silent when I should have spoken up. For the woman I had become so afraid of conflict that I let my own identity be erased. My mother did not try to fix things with words. She just made my favorite foods and sat with me on the porch in the evenings. Sometimes we talked. Sometimes we just listened to the crickets and watched the fireflies. Marcus called every day. "How are you holding up?" "Better," I would say. And gradually it became true. The divorce proceedings moved quickly once they began. I hired a lawyer in Charlotte who specialized in family law. She was sharp and efficient, and she did not tolerate any of Garrett's attempts to delay or manipulate. The evidence was overwhelming. I had designed the house. My name was on every blueprint. My professional credentials proved I had the skills to create what Garrett had claimed as his own. The screenshots of his messages with Priscilla demonstrated his infidelity and his deception. Garrett tried to fight for the house, but he had no ground to stand on. The judge saw through his lies immediately. In the end, we sold the lake house and split the proceeds. I did not want to keep it. That house held too many memories of being invisible, too many moments of watching someone else take credit for my work. I needed a fresh start, not a monument to my past. With my share of the money, I bought a small condominium in downtown Charleston. It was nothing like the lake house, just 1,200 square feet with a view of a courtyard garden. But it was mine. Every decision about that space was mine. Every piece of furniture I chose reflected who I actually was. I transferred from the Charlotte office of Sterling Design Group to a smaller firm in Charleston. The pay was less, but the work was more personal. I designed homes for families, young couples, retirees, people who wanted spaces that would hold their lives and their memories. But the real change came 3 months after the divorce was finalized. Franklin Webb called me on a Tuesday afternoon. "Clarissa," he said, "I have been thinking about our conversation at that party. You are too talented to work for someone else. You should have your own firm." I laughed nervously. "I do not have the capital or the connections to start my own business." "You have the talent," Franklin said. "The rest can be arranged. I would like to be your first investor, and Webb Construction will be your first partner. We will send every client who needs design work directly to you." It took me 3 days to say yes. 3 days of doubt and fear and wondering if I was ready. But I thought about everything I had survived. The stolen credit, the public humiliation, the rebuilding of my life from nothing. If I could endure all of that, I could certainly run my own company. Clarissa Moore, Design opened 6 months after my divorce. I rented a small office space near the waterfront, just big enough for me and an assistant. Franklin was true to his word. He sent me clients immediately. People building custom homes throughout the Lowcountry. My first major project was a lakefront home for a young family with 3 children. The wife specifically asked for a design that would bring the outdoors inside large windows, natural materials, spaces that felt connected to the water. I poured everything I had into those plans. When the house was complete, the family invited me to their housewarming party. I walked through the rooms I had designed and watched the children running through the spaces I had imagined. The mother found me on the back deck looking out at the lake. "This is perfect," she said, tears in her eyes. "This is exactly what we dreamed of." For the first time in years, I felt truly proud. The local architecture magazine featured Clarissa Moore Design in their spring issue. They photographed my office and my projects and asked me about my philosophy of design. "A home should reflect the people who live there," I told the interviewer. "It should tell their story, not someone else's." My mother cut out the article and framed it. It hangs in her living room now next to my childhood drawings. Marcus and I have lunch together whenever I visit Atlanta or he comes to Charleston. Our relationship is stronger than ever. He never says "I told you so" about Garrett. He just tells me he is proud of the woman I have become. I heard through mutual acquaintances that Garrett was demoted at his company after the housewarming party. His colleagues lost trust in him once they realized how much he had lied about. He moved into a small apartment somewhere in Charlotte and stopped posting on social media. Priscilla blocked him on everything. Apparently, she told friends that he had tried to contact her several times after the party, but she refused to respond. I do not feel happy about Garrett's downfall. I do not feel sad either. What I feel is something closer to nothing, a neutral acceptance that he made his choices and now lives with the consequences. My life is different now. I wake up every morning in my own space surrounded by my own choices. I go to work at a company that bears my name. I design homes that will stand for generations, and every blueprint carries my signature. I am 29 years old. I am divorced. I run my own business. And for the first time since I can remember, I am genuinely happy. Because I finally have something that Garrett could never give me and could never take away: my own voice, my own credit, my own identity. If you are watching this and you recognize yourself in my story, if you have ever let someone steal your work or silence your voice or make you feel invisible, please hear me. Your talent belongs to you. Your achievements are yours. No one has the right to claim what you have created. Speaking up is terrifying. Walking away from someone who diminishes you is one of the hardest things you will ever do. But staying in a situation where you are erased is so much worse. The house by the lake was beautiful. I designed every inch of it with love and skill and hope, but it was never really mine because the person I shared it with refused to see me. Now everything I create carries my signature, my story, my truth, and that is worth more than any house built on lies. Thank you for listening to my story today. If you have ever felt invisible in your own life, or if you have ever had someone take credit for your hard work, I would love to hear your experience. Please share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like so others can find it too. Subscribe to this channel so you never miss a new story. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message, please share this video with them. Thank you for being here. I wish you the courage to claim your own voice, the strength to walk away from anyone who diminishes you, and the peace that comes from finally being seen. Take care of yourselves. You deserve it.